Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
I'm your host today, Chris Santamassimo, of course, from OGC Solutions. And I'm really excited to spend some time today with the folks from Significans. Today we have Marc Raad, who's the president and CEO, and Stan Carmichael, the director of special projects and the self-proclaimed chief ballbuster at the company. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
It's a pleasure, Chris.
Well, I'm really excited about it because, you know, we talk a lot about technology in a lot of different industries, but especially in printing and packaging. You know, with technology being not only sort of a necessary evil, but really being the heart and soul of a company. And what you see in a lot of industries, again, not just printing and packaging, but that's what we're going to talk about today. You see technology being used, and then what you find is you got a lot of disparate pieces that sort of float around in this orbit around the company and don't speak to each other in all cases. And what a company often needs is somebody like Significans or another company to bring together what Stan has aptly called these islands of automation. So I find it really exciting and really interesting to talk to folks like you that are really shepherding that process and bringing differentiators and value to clients so that they can go to market for their customers and be more competitive, more efficient, et cetera, and tackle some of the things that really plague the industries. So I'm going to hand you the baton and let you talk about Significans and some of the things that you do and see in the industry, and then we'll take it from there.
Amazing. Thanks, Christopher. In fact, you've nailed it. There's all these disparate systems out there that generally don't speak to one another and haven't been programmed to speak to one another. So I really founded the company on the basis that our industry is being attracted by amazing software that's out there, but generally that software isn't connectable right out of the box. And we really founded the company on the basis that connectivity and integration can bring the highest levels of automation to the application or the environment that it goes into. And if we can make an unmanned environment out of the business, whether that's in print, pack, agency, or brand, and we've done a really good deed out there. And so we've been doing this since 2018, and we've actually been the only niche integrator to transcend the entire industry from print to pack to agency to brand. And it's catapulted us to being one of the largest niche integrators in North and South America at this point. So we're really excited about where our growth is taking us. In fact, we've got an entity out of Canada, the US, and Europe now, because everyone's wondering what's next for their business, and it is automation, of course, but it can't be done without an incredible level of moving data and managing graphics, and the combination of the two is an incredible opportunity for many businesses out there.
Yeah, and the idea of automation, as you've said, Stan, when we spoke a number of times before this, is not new to the industry, but maybe the idea of bringing it all together in sort of an organized and productive way is a bit new.
You're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, in defense of both Mark and I have worked for large manufacturers that service the printing industry, software and hardware. And when you're in that environment, you have a focus, and that focus is, of course, is on the manufactured product that your company makes and how you move that out and apply it to a specific industry. Where Significance and companies like ours, but specifically ours, differ is we look at the different technologies employed in a company and say, how can we bring these benefits together to create an even larger benefit? And when they start speaking to each other and when data starts moving seamlessly that needs to go to places without having to be repeated or re-entered, we eliminate the touch points without having to have communications. I was talking to one of our guys this morning and I thought, remember the day when we used to screen back and forth? Are these negatives approved? Can I make the plates yet? No, I haven't heard back from the client. And in today's environment, a Significance customer doesn't have to have a conversation. the files move to the plate setter or to the printer when they're approved by the customer, and nobody touches it. There's no communication breakdown. Nobody makes the wrong plates or has the wrong production queue. The advantage of that, of course, is that the people that used to screen back and forth and wonder if we could make the plates now or is it out for proofing, are busy adding value to their customers by doing the work that can't be done by a computer or servicing more and additional clients and additional work. So we end up gaining productivity, effectiveness, and efficiency in one foul swoop. And that's the goal.
Yeah, and in the process, really stripping errors or the opportunity for errors out of the process, because every time you have manual intervention between these systems that don't speak to each other well, you've got a chance that there's going to be an error somewhere.
Absolutely. We all make keystroking errors. We all, copy and paste and forget, the last digit or whatever it is. We've all done it. And the busier we are, the less focused we become. So the more of the mundane tasks, the repetitive mundane tasks we can take away from the human, the more engaged they are in paying attention to what they're doing, and we do a better job.
I also think that when you talk about the labor, in virtually every manufacturing industry, the topic of labor is a frustration or a bottleneck for owners and operators because they can't find the right people. They can't prevent people from retiring, of course, but they also have a hard time keeping people sometimes. I like to think about technology really as a way to make the job better for those folks and more worth staying with, where they're not doing the repetitive, boring things that make you want to get out of the plant as soon as possible. Do you find that is empowering to some of the folks that you work with?
Absolutely. We've been Stan and I sold digital equipment for years before coming on board to Significance. The digital adoption is here, and it's definitely here to stay, Chris. But the moral of the story is that digital adoption has facilitated people to gain a really good appreciation of what automation can do. And as Stan said earlier, it's an island of its own without it being connected. So what if we do get it all connected? What does that do? That becomes another utility, another tool for the staff members in the business. And honestly, a lot of the management want to see their staff work better, more efficiently, and not have to stay late and overtime, especially through seasonal circumstances. So if they can increase their capacity without increasing the family around them, then that's the benefit. Increasing family means that sometimes it brings on mistakes or new processes or dysfunction that the business can't absorb and shouldn't absorb, of course. So yeah, by setting the standards, and the standards for an operating procedure or an automation process, or better yet, a new standard operating process. SOPs have been standard in the manufacturing business for many, many years. Now we're sort of digitizing them. And in fact, what we're doing at Significance is re-engineering them, recoding them, reprogramming them right into the automation that we're basically project and tasked to do for our customer base.
In the process for one of your customers to think about automation from the perspective of Significance, what does that initial decision point look like? Is it a company that's bursting at the seams with new work, or is it a company that's at an inflection point, or is it something else? Like what causes an owner to say, we gotta get better and we gotta get more efficient?
That's a really interesting question because it's all of them. So one of the things that makes us unique, but is, as Mark said, we've both sold technology for many years. So you walk into a printing shop and all the equipment looks the same, all the people look the same. It's, the same raw materials, and you have cartons and boxes or whatever is leaving the factory. But the truth is that every single one of them is a unique entity. It's a unique breathing entity. It has its own customers. It has its own requirements. It has its own owners with their own idea of how a business should be run, their own procedures.
Their own language and their own data.
Right.
Everything is customized to that business.
Right.
So it's important for us to keep an open mind and ask that question that you did, Chris, because there is a compelling reason why somebody will come and talk to us, right? And, our job and the job of every salesperson, of course, is to understand what the compelling reason for that conversation is. And the second job is to understand the opportunities that unfold during the conversations. And we've sort of formalized those process. And I'll let Mark talk about this a little bit more in detail if you don't mind, Mark, but It's critical to treat every single instance as its own, especially when you're integrating a bunch of different equipment and different technologies from different companies and different suppliers. Mark, if you can maybe walk through what our process is.
Yeah, so typically our customers say, wow, I love what you've done. I've read your case studies. I'm quite impressed. I've spoken with a couple of your peers. I've been introduced to you, or I've acquired some software. It's completely underutilized. I'm hoping to get some help with it. I hear you're the ones that can help us out with that. And by the way, 90% of our business comes by way of introduction. So it's been really, really a blessing of a journey for us. But having said that, a lot of our customers say, okay, where do we get started? How do we plan for a transformational journey or a project or an automation journey? And we like to sit down with our customers and give them an initial 30 minutes to sort of give them perspective as to where they may stand and where we could stand with them, because we sit at the same side of the table as them. And from there, we try and encourage that we map things out for them. And what that means is that we take a drawing of what their current systems and the processes look like through their business. And so we map out a current state with the customer. We get some alignment. Then we go back internally and circle the wagons with our workflow development team, our chief technologists, et cetera. And we come back to the customer with what we call a future state map. Then we break that down into phases. And those phases can even be broken down into what we call quick wins and sprints that will facilitate a return on investment. Nothing gets justified in our industry or any industry today without a return on investment, of course. So we also do a study on what the investment would entail and what it would recover for the customer. And ultimately, that's done through a 30-minute, 40-minute study with the customer. And then we tie everything into an incredible report for our customers. And these aren't templated reports, Chris. These are all one-off, written beautifully by my team. I'm so proud to read every one of them because every one is a different story. And when we look at these 20 to 40 to 50 to 60 pages even recently, I'm looking at reports that are saying this is the outlook that the customer can embark on in the course of months or years. But more importantly, it's a business plan, because there's economics involved, there's a change involved, there's change management involved, and there's a realignment of the founder's vision or the ownership's vision. And when we do our on-site audits, we go deeper. We encompass vision, people, system, and process. And if we're doing something online, and that something is like a virtual assessment, we're only encompassing the system, the process, and the vision. But having the people element and understanding what the staff has done to adjust to process or nuances in the business, that really makes for a grand story for what the future entails for the customer.
In that process, I'm assuming that when you dig into the processes for a current state, you're finding, first of all, you're documenting that, but you're also finding places that are just a mess, that there's bottlenecks, there's upside down processes, crazy workarounds that people develop. Do you sort of have to contemplate a fix to those things in conjunction with the automation, or does the automation customize or get customized to fit within that current state?
Combination of the two. And again, we aren't the savior to every circumstance, but because all of my guys come from shop floor experience and they've worked for software companies or they've worked for commercial print companies or digital print companies, they know what the benefit of the automation or the new process or the efficient process could bring. And again, our business analyst team have lean certifications under the belt as well. So they can speak with the authority and the conviction to encourage the opportunity and the optimism behind the opportunity. So yes, we uncover a lot when we do that current state. You're absolutely right. And ultimately what we're trying to do, what we've done many times for customers who say, I tell you what, you're the chef, you're going to give me the recipe, you're also going to sell me the ingredients, which is the software, help us go through this transformation. When we have a white sheet, my guys go to town big time, and they build the automation as if it was going to be theirs. But I think notably, when we have the average customer who comes to us, what they're saying is they have some software, they need to tie together, they don't have the skill sets maybe to do the integration. Can you help us? The answer is generally yes, but let's understand what the nuances and what the dynamics are and what we're integrating ultimately. And at the end of the day, what they're getting is the return on investment finally, because two pieces of software are now speaking to one another. And the data is moving and flowing, because without the data manipulating automation or triggering the automation in the flow, you're not getting maximized or robotic processes down the road.
And that latter example is the greatest achievement we do. I mean, it's easy to start with a blank slate and build. When you go into a company that has 20, 30 years of varying experiences and 10 or 15 years of varying levels of software or automation, and you're able to bring some harmony into that and start them on the path to modern automated workflow, because it is a journey. It's not a destination. This is a never-ending process. As we know, change just keeps changing, right? Mm-hmm. But we're laying the foundation to take them into a new world of digital communication and software automation. And the people that are our greatest references are those people that were on the shop floor and can't believe the fact that we actually made their lives simpler and more productive. Yeah, but it's a more challenging task for our guys to do that, of course. Yeah. But that's where we earn our keep.
Well, no matter how good the end state is, and no matter how big the improvement is, there's always that pain of change on the people side, especially. There's resistance, there's fright, and everything in between. How do you conquer that, and how do you get away from the ones and zeros of software development into how you're going to sell it essentially to the staff and show them how much better their lives are going to be afterwards?
You have to paint the future state as one where where it benefits them. So it's easy to make the argument to Chris, the business owner, right? And it's really easy to make the argument to Mark, the department head, about how much more efficient he is and how much happier Chris is going to be. But Stan's worried about whether he's going to have a job tomorrow.
Right.
And so, we have to go in and paint the future state of less stress, less overtime, more abilities to exercise your creative freedom and help people. And once they get a taste for it, it just becomes an evolution like everything else. But all of us are resistant to a certain extent. Mark, do you have anything to say about that? You've got more experience with the guys.
Absolutely. And I will say you've nailed it, Chris. Sometimes there is that resistance to change or job preservation, etc. But the way we position it is, we have the privilege of seeing maybe 30 or 40 businesses every quarter. You see your four walls, and your four walls are underutilizing the tools that the C-level have acquired to make it worth your while here. So what if we give you the education? What if we reinvigorate your job? And no one says no to that, because guess what, Chris? They'd have to go back to school for 4 years, afford that, plus a livelihood, plus, and be a burden on their family. And in fact, we give them that education so that they become the control, I used to say this a lot, the control tower manager of where automation is through their business and their application processes. They win. The company wins. The founders win. and the systems are now being utilized to their maximum potential.
How do you factor in the concept that if the business doesn't change and evolve, that it might not be there in 2 years, and therefore nobody's going to have a job? Does that come into play at all, or is it really just a sale of the positives without a reference to the worst case negatives?
The worst case negatives are quite obvious. We don't try and sell to the negative at all. That's just not our motive, right?
Right.
But the negatives it do exist, because if people aren't changing, they might as well put a for sale sign up.
Yeah.
It's just where it is. The competitive landscape today is huge. And those who are modernizing, those who are advancing their business have already established that they're going to be a great business in the future. Those who aren't adopting the change, then they've already put it in their head to say, we're satisfied, we're going to be bought, we're going to be taken over, we're going to fail. It's the wrong attitude, but we don't try and highlight that. It's kind of obvious. I do have a little story to share with you, Chris, if I may. One of our largest customers, who we've done about 10 locations for, told me last year that they were engaging Significants to help them with their business transformation, mainly for two reasons. One, that Significants really, or companies like Significants, really hold the cards to the future. It's not about the OEM who have that software. It's about the people who really understand integration that are going to catapult the industry to a whole nother level. And then part two in the compliments that they were giving us is, they said, you've already done these incredible things for smaller companies. It's not that we don't like it, but we need to keep up with the Joneses. And you've certainly helped us understand that if we don't keep up with the Joneses, we may have something else that we have to tackle down in the future that might not be so positive.
I can add one more thing to your question, Chris, and that is the people that don't care about the future of their company don't come and talk to us. So I'll share you a quick story. I have a friend of mine who's a psychologist, and I asked him one day, doesn't it drive you crazy listening to people whine and complain about their lives? He says, Stan, I have the pleasure of working for and with a bunch of positive people that want to make a positive change in their life. What could be more fulfilling than that? So I looked at the thing as a bunch of people whining, and he looked at it as a bunch of people empowering themselves to help themselves, right? The people who come and talk to Significants are not people that are planning to go out of business, or they're people who understand it and are committed to making an investment in their future and the future of their employees and their customers. So we're blessed very much with the creme de la creme of the market.
And the glass is half full crowd as well, which is a good place to be. Yeah. For sure.
It is. And you have to have made that decision before you come and talk to them. So people aren't motivated. They don't come and shop to us and say, what's this all about? What do you do for a living? They mostly will come and say, Mark, can you help me? How? What seems to be the problem? Mark will ask them. And the journey begins.
They see the value. They see the value, but they also maybe see the inability to get to the end state themselves.
Well, as Mark said, they've made investments in automation. They've automated equipment. They have automated printers. They have software. They have an MIS system, perhaps. Perhaps they've got involved in web to print or whatever kind of storefronts. And they have all these islands of automation, and they're looking at ways to get a better return on the investment. And all of these investments are quite substantial. They're not minimal. So they are motivated, and it's our responsibility as a supplier to understand that and to work with them to find out what it is that can get them on the route to where they need to be.
And to elaborate, Christopher, sorry, we've got a lot to
go
say
ahead,
here.
man.
It's so
I love it. I like the frickin'
it.
frack and the back and forth. That's great.
Generally speaking, people who buy software will buy it for a certain utility. But that generally means, even for you and I who have our computers, generally when we add software to what we're doing in our day, we're only utilizing it 20, 30%. We paid 100% of the value. So until you have an integrator involved, you're not going to extract the original value out of that software that you perceived it to give you in your business or your studies or whatever have you. You go to universities today, especially those who are pretty involved with our industry, and what you see are young students that are automating what they do. And they're bringing in initiatives of AI, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today, but they're bringing in some strategies of AI into their day. They're actually configuring their day to a trusted automation process. And then they go home, they program some home automation, and on their way home, they program their car to do some levels of automation. It's all around us, and it's all trusted automation because it's being built by those who want to configure it the way they need it for themselves. And so our invitation to people is, if you're going to buy software, by all means do. Please innovate, be Darwinian, but don't forget that it needs to have that ability to speak to other pieces of software that might be best in class for certain aspects or certain applications or certain skill sets that you're looking to do. And if you can't do it alone, bring on a coach, bring on an entity like Significance to help out.
Well, you gave me a softball right there to jump into the last topic that I wanted to cover, which was AI.
Here we go. Yeah.
We have liftoff, Stan. We have liftoff.
Yep.
Yeah. I saw the engines get started.
Yeah.
I find it such an interesting discussion because I would say the majority of people have a little bit of taste of it. You know, they've gone on ChatGPT or Copilot or something, and they do a little bit with it, but they don't fully understand it. And I'm not saying that I understand all of it either, by the way. I'm not trying to mislead anyone, but they think that, well, if I just use some more AI, I'm going to get better somehow, or I'm going to strip out X, Y, and Z from my process. You know, how does AI play into what Significance does, what your customers are demanding, and, you know, to what extent is it a partial solution maybe, or another tool that's in your tool set?
It's a huge curiosity. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. So AI is definitely in its infancy, and it's definitely a buzzword that everybody's talking about, right? Most of the AI speak is marketing speak right now. I think that very few people understand what the future is for AI, but I can tell you it's coming, and it's going to be revolutionary on how we work. Mark has a breakdown of levels of AI, and maybe, Mark, you can talk about where in those levels we're seeing some attraction and ability, and what the future might hold, because it's going to become exponential to what I think we understand and what we view today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Chris, to answer the question, there is a huge industry curiosity around what AI is and what it can do for their business. We get questioned all the time. Then can you implement AI? But we have to start off with, what's the definition of AI, and what does it mean for your business? And which AI form are you looking to adopt, and how can we strategize to adopt it more in the future? So today, if you look up on Google, you'll see probably 12 to 14 different forms of AI that people can adopt. And most of it is unavailable. In fact, there's only 3 or 4 that are available today, and that includes narrow AI, generative AI, aggregate AI. Aggregate for us has been something that we've been doing for many years, but it's also known as agentic AI that you're hearing more and more of today. So once you get definition as to which AI form is going to be best suited for the environment and the requirement of that division within the environment or that circumstance, then you can put it into the overarching strategy of your future. But you need step one. Step one is, what is it that you're going to do? So plan around that. 2, adopt some boundaries around it. So what does it mean to the business, and how do we keep it under the framework of the business? How do we make it sovereign, which is really, really important, because once you go into what they call open AI, oh boy, you're giving away your IP at that point. So, and you're being a lawyer, we always have to protect the data of the environment ultimately. So once that's all defined, then Significance comes in and says, okay, there's levels of generative in this circumstance that we can put into play. But step one is obviously, what are you doing with your software? how is it being automated? How are we moving the data around? How are we getting involved with that data? And then what are the boundaries around that? And then step 2 is, okay, as we do some machine learning circumstance, what are we picking up? How much are we picking up? So again, we're starting to build for customers that opportunity. Now again, Significant since its inception in 2018 has been aggregating data and aggregating opportunities around graphics and data to facilitate more of a, let's call it, unmanned environment where decision making is being taken care of by the computing resources. And more of it is going to come around because the machines are learning constantly, and again, refining the processes, refining the developments around that software is critical to the business. So typically, how does that affect a relationship with Significance? As Stan said, it could ever be evolving, or we provide the right training and the skill sets to those who want to be a lot more self-sufficient in their future.
One of the things that we're advising all of our clients, anybody who asks us about AI, is, do you own your data? Do you have free and ample access to your data? And if you don't, you better get started now, because we don't know what's coming. We don't know when it's coming. But until your data is available to you, you'll be using somebody else's data, and that is not going to be applicable to your company. So that's step 1. There's a lot of legacy software out there that prevents, or not prevents, but presents a challenge to accessing all the data and putting it into a usable form. Because if this software was written 30 years ago or 20 years ago, they had no idea of where it would be today. Okay? The other thing today, I think, Mark, you're going to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the estimating function with certain software, planning and estimating software, is working today in many of our clients, is it not?
It is, and they're using a lot more analytics from the shop floor to help them with the estimating procedures, of course. Those systems have existed, they've grown, they've been refined over the years, so they're in really, really good shape. Scheduling is difficult because, as you know, Chris, the print and pack space is very ad hoc sometimes. They're servicing corporate North America in a very swift manner or a very demanding manner. And so scheduling becomes, a condition where the conditions also need to be reset constantly. So again, we're a ways away from those machine learning capabilities, and those human elements need to be obviously programmed into AI down the road.
I think we can agree that it's going to be a factor, right? And it's going to continue to be a factor for a while. And it's a statement about the misunderstanding about it, but whenever you're talking to somebody about business improvement or software capabilities, if you're not talking about AI, you get shut down pretty fast. So I think
it's marketing,
great
speed,
marketing, yeah, for sure.
And essentially, it's the topic of the day, and I understand that. But when you look at from the inside, when we look at where we might be going, it's going to be a long journey, and it's going to be an exciting one. And to anybody listening who thinks AI is going to replace them, I mean, only if you let it, because it's still it's not going to replace human beings. It's going to be a wonderfully productive tool. It's going to allow us to spread our wings and do a lot more with our day.
No doubt.
And to remove the fallacies here, Significance not only coaches, but is also developing AI apps and utilities for its customers. So, I hope that the audience looks at us as being a professional services company primarily, but we're trying to fill in the gaps for the lovely software that's apparent in the industry that can't do it all. No one's going to buy one piece of software and it does it all. There needs to be some utilities to fill in the gaps and bridge the gaps. And Significance is one of those vendors in the industry that is constantly putting a lot of R&D into the future. And
No doubt
especially
about
around AI. So yes, stay tuned is what I'm trying to suggest.
it. That's a good way to put it for sure. Well, Mark and Stan, you guys have been a fantastic interview today. I think we could probably go for another half a day and still have stuff to talk about. But I really appreciate you sharing your viewpoints, and I hope you'll come back to the podcast to talk about not just Significance, but all the success stories that you're part of as well.
We'd be delighted. In fact, a lot of our customers have blessed us with their story and their return on investments, and we'd be delighted to share their story. In fact, for us, it's all about the customer and what they've been able to achieve.
I would love it, actually, because I think those success stories and the anecdotes really create just a germination of ideas. And really, when you hear someone else's success story, hopefully you're going to get motivated to create your own, but also you can kind of align yourself with some of those examples and see how it applies to your company.
You're right. Yeah. It's very relatable to see somebody else's story and say, well, I've seen that. I've done that.
Yeah.
Or if they can do it, why can't I do it? And we're triple their size, sort of
thing,
exactly. Right? So,
yeah.
It's suited, any of the automation that we've been putting in for people is suited from anyone from a one-man operation to corporations in the multi-billions. It's what you want it to be at the end of the day. And we've got stories across the board, and we're an open book. We showcase a lot of our privileged opportunities through our website or through journals and magazines and guides that we publish all the time. So, and we thank you very much for having us on your show here. It's been a pleasure.
I'm just a facilitator. You guys are the ones that are doing all the good work out there. So thank you for sharing today for sure. And just to sum it up, this has been Marc Raad and Stan Carmichael from Significance, the automation company. And this has been Chris Santomassimo from the Think Factory podcast. We'll see you next time.